So today we're talking about FOIA and sunshine laws. Both of these are laws that make it easier for journalists and really anyone to get documents that relate to government. FOIA is a federal statute and sunshine is a state. So sunshine laws themselves, basically in this state, consist of the Open and Public Meetings Act and the Open Records Act. So the first one obviously has to do with people getting together and when that is required that they be open to the public, and the second has to do with documents and getting information. So the Open Meeting Act says that all government meetings must be open to the public. They require public notice of all state and local government meetings. So essentially this just says that if there's going to be a meeting with government involved, on that level, then there has to be notice given to people in some way. So sometimes this is through the newspaper or it's posted, probably at City Hall, but it's also usually on their website. So you can see right now they've got a meeting scheduled for April 7th. I'm guessing this one's probably going to end up being done over the phone, but for right now at least it says it's in City Hall. So they're advertising the meeting and that's what they're required to do. Now, who all is under Open Meetings Act includes city councils, county commissions, regional development authorities, library boards, school boards, that's the one that we're going to probably do for y'all's final story, planning commissions, zoning boards, and most committees of the University System of Georgia, because obviously we're federally funded and state funded. I'm not going to read this. Basically all it is the law that says that anytime a group meets that has any government connection, they have to produce an agenda. So they have to produce something that says what is going to be talked about at their meeting that's available to the public. And then when it's over, they have to come up with minutes, which basically just say what happened at the meeting. So both of these things are required, and it might be useful for you guys to know this when we're doing that last story, whether or not you need to look at an agenda or you need to look at minutes. Depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for what's going to happen, or in the case of minutes, what already did happen. So how about recording? This is not going to be an issue for you guys this semester, but it's always good to know whether or not public can be given access to open meetings. So this says that you may make video and audio recordings of all open meetings, and that gives the number of the state statute. Now this is the Open Records Act. So we've been talking about meetings and how they should be open to the public, and this is the second part of this, which is the Open Records Act, which says that documents are open to the public. The act itself governs which records are open and which ones aren't. There are some exemptions, as you can see here. Things like medical records, are not public, not open to the public. But open record laws applies to all sorts of things. So you can get more than just documents. I always say documents because that's kind of what we do. But you can also get maps, books, tapes, photographs, computer-based or generated information, and similar material prepared, maintained, or received by an agency. I know somebody recently who was looking for items used in a court case, and they were able to FOIA and get access to items used in a court case that were shown, during evidence, basically. The Georgia Open Records Act, once a record is requested, they have 3 business days to respond with either the record or a timeline. So basically, if you put in a request for something, let's say you request information about all the home invasions that have happened within the last 3 years. Well, the police department may or may not be able to get that to you within 3 days. So if they can't, they email you within those initial 3 days and say it's going to take us 2 weeks or however long their timeline is. But the requirement is that you hear back in some respect in 3 days. The other part of this is that you can be charged a fee, but the fee is capped at 25 cents per page if we're talking about documents. And then they also can charge administrative costs for labor, but they can only charge as much as the person who makes the least amount within the office would make per hour, if that makes sense. Now, in addition to the state regulations, there's FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. The Freedom of Information Act is a lot like the sunshine laws, but it's on a national and federal level. So basically, this is how we get information from the federal government. It is a federal law that gives you right to access information from the federal government, which is what I just said. I'm sorry. I'm repeating myself. Whoops. Did I miss one? Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of a good concept to know. Both Sunshine and FOIA are based on the idea that documents were created with taxpayers' money, so they belong to the taxpayer. So the concept that we actually should have access to the things that define us because we are the ones who are funding them is what makes FOIA and Sunshine possible. It's not something you spend a lot of time thinking about, but I think it's relevant to trying to understand why we have them. Okay, so steps to make a request for FOIA. First, you want to figure out what the information is you want. So, for example, I had a student who was looking at arrests made on days when we had football games, and they requested specifically arrest records for days that there were football games on in Statesboro on campus. You want to make sure it's not already available. In this case, this person was not able to, get that specific information online. You want to find the person or agency that has it. In that case, you're looking at the police department. You want to use a template to make your request. So you can use either an online template that looks something like this, which you'll find tons of them if you Google FOIA request letter. You don't need this one in particular, but basically a generic letter that says, who you are, who you're addressing, what it is that you work with. If it's a newspaper or if you're just a student, you can just say you're a student. Oops, let's go back. The amount of money you're willing to pay. So if you, only don't want to pay any money, you can put 0 in here. Or if you're willing to put forth a few dollars, then, put that in there. And you can also say what you're using the FOIA for if it's relevant to you. If you think you don't have to, but you might be helpful in some situations. Here's another FOIA form. This is for the Department of Education. This is their official form. And as you can see, they're just basically needing very, basic information. One of the assignments this week is to either do a FOIA request or to do a math worksheet. And the FOIA request can be very simple. It can be as simple as finding something like this and filling it out. So what can you request? That's the hard question a lot of people ask me. And because you can request literally anything that is connected to federal money or state, there's a whole world of things out there. But I found a couple of examples that I thought were kind of cool. This one was in the city of Chicago, where, basically what they did was they got records for parking tickets. They requested with, and I'm not sure what state agency that is, but it's state parking, whoever, deals with parking, and said they looked at when cars were given tickets and how many tickets they were given, and basically were able to determine that the city had issued 20,000 duplicate tickets since 2007. Now, that's a little bit to wrap your brain around, but basically there were a whole lot of duplicate tickets being issued, and the FOIA request let them see that and write an article about it. The other one I really like is, it's this one. Curious about the most popular dog names? Block Club Chicago took a look at the dogs of the Windy City using pet application data from the city clerk's office. So in this case, they asked for information about pet registration because in Chicago you're required to register your pet. So they asked about, what were the names of the animals that were registered, and what they came up with was a cool little story that basically ended up giving us these top names, so we could see what the top names that people had registered their dogs as. And it was just through a FOIA request. So a fairly simple, kind of fun story done through FOIA. It doesn't always have to be deadly serious. One thing I want to mention, I didn't put in this PowerPoint, but I think you guys might be interested. If you're doing a FOIA request for your exercise, you might consider FOIAing yourself. So FOIA can be used as a verb, yes. FOIAing yourself just involves sending the FBI a FOIA request, and there's tons of them out there, so you can Google that. But finding out if they have any information on you. I did this not long ago because I kind of was interested to see if there was anything out there, and there wasn't, which is good. I probably shouldn't have thought there would have been, but in any case, there wasn't. But it was interesting to find out and be sure about that. So that's one option when you're looking at FOIA requests. So you guys, for your exercise this week, if you do the FOIA request, just use your imagination, whatever you think you might be most interested in, and request whatever that thing is. You don't have to send it as part of the assignment, but I do want you to fill it out, and I want to know that you know how to do that. Okay, that's it for this lecture. I will see you guys next time.